You want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
You can't handle the truth!
Well, we're giving you the Michigan Sports Truth, the show that is honest, reveals the facts, truth, and statistics, and does not mess around. Follow me, Taylor Phillips, on Twitter at DT2Phillips. Email me at TaylorGatorPhillips14@yahoo.com. Follow Ed Smith on Twitter at EdSmith313, and go to our website at MichiganSportsTruth.com. Also like our Facebook page, The Michigan Sports Truth, and join our Facebook group with the same name. The Michigan Sports Truth podcast on Spreaker is also available on iHeartRadio and SoundCloud. This podcast is particularly not for entertainment purposes, and the views expressed by the host of this podcast are opinion-based. However, they do not come without facts, research, statistics, and truth, whether other people like it or not, and no matter how harsh or complicated it may be. This is the Michigan Sports Truth, and nothing can ever stop it from being correct.
And welcome to episode 279 of the Michigan Sports Truth Week in Review on Spreaker. Taylor Phillips, Ed Smith, got a lot to cover, including the Tigers brawl, the Lions, Victor Martinez, Matthew Stafford's extension. Also got college football coming up. Their season kicks off this week. And a little bit of Henrik Zetterberg news, and the Pistons continue confirming that they have missed out on Kyrie Irving. Plus, we've added a new segment called the College Football and the Mitten Quick Picks, soon to be the Football and the Mitten Quick Picks, including the Lions later on in September, late of mid-September. But let's go ahead and get started with Tigers here.
That one is long gone!
Last Thursday, in the Tigers' 10-6 win over the Yankees, benches cleared 3 times in that 3-game series finale. And Michael Fulmer, it all started when Michael Fulmer plunks Gary Sanchez. Gary Sanchez gave him a stare down, and Gary Sanchez hit 3 home runs in that game. And then Tommy Conley retaliated by throwing behind Miguel Cabrera, and he got tossed. There were no warnings. Now keep in mind, there were no warnings issued to either dugout when Fulmer plunked Gary Sanchez, and Tommy Conley got tossed. And Joe Girardi came out to argue, understandably, and he got tossed. And then when Aroldis Chapman was summoned to the mound after Girardi's ejection, Miguel Cabrera and New York Yankees catcher Austin Romine were jawing at each other, and Miguel Cabrera strikes first not once but twice by shoving and then punching catcher Austin Romine.
Are you kidding me with this?
And both benches emptied for the first time in the game. And then Aaron Judge in that brawl punched Miguel Cabrera in the throat. James McCann got drilled in the helmet. Dylan Betanzas got himself a very, very late ejection. And then Alex Wilson hits Todd Frazier with a pitch and got tossed. That's the third time that the benches have emptied, the dugouts have emptied. The second time was when James McCann got drilled. The third time, Alex Wilson plunked former Chicago White Sox second baseman Todd Frazier, the Todd father, now the New York Yankees. And Alex Wilson got tossed. In that third brawl, by the way, Justin Verlander wanted to pick a fight, and then in the dugout, later on, flipped off Victor Martinez, who clearly tried to play peacemaker. Verlander, days thereafter, denied any bad blood between him and Victor. But back to the brawl, one of those brawls, Brad Ausmus said, "Fuck you" to Brett Gardner, and Joe Girardi rightfully criticized Brad Ausmus in his post-game interview on the Yes Network, the home of the Yankees, and says the umpires are doing a very poor job, quote unquote, which leads to the suspensions being listed. Miguel Cabrera 7 games, Gary Sanchez 4, Alex Wilson 4, Austin Romine 2 games, and manager Brad Ausmus, of all people, 1. That's something we'd like to take right there. Brad Ausmus receiving a 1-game suspension to, I guess, possibly for saying "fuck you" to Brett Gardner, one of Joe Girardi's Yankee players.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of his, him using that remark towards Gardner, and also probably in a sense not being able to control his fucking players from continuously retaliating against the Yankees. With throwing beating players, and because look, the bench is cleared 3 fucking times, right? And remember, Girardi was already ejected before the first time, so it's up to Austin as the manager to instruct his team, hey, listen, we got that first shit out the way. Don't just leave it alone. If they want to keep beating our players, let them go ahead and get themselves in trouble. Don't you try to respond to that shit. But what? It still kept happening on both sides, and it led to the situation that we have now. So I have no problem with Austin getting suspended. Backed on because of how he was unable to handle and control his own team, because Girardi at least had this excuse. He was already out of the game. So what's Austin's excuse?
Yeah, Brad Ausmus had no excuses. And Joe Girardi was watching on the television and reading Brad Ausmus's lips when Brad Ausmus said that to Brett Gardner, and Joe Girardi was understandably pissed off. And this is a new additional example of why Brad Ausmus should be fired or should resign as manager of the Tigers.
Where is your honor, dirtbag?
Or at the very least, not be brought back for the 2018 season, because remember, his contract does expire after this year.
Yeah, it's his option year, his make or break year, and things are going way downhill.
You are pathetic!
And he's to blame.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of Victor Martinez, he recently suffered another irregular heartbeat, put on the 10-day DL again. He's been having health issues this year. That's the one thing that we know for sure as of right now.
You can add to that and say years plural, because it's not just his heart in terms of health issues. I mean, he blew out both his knees, or at least one of his knees, multiple times. Age has caught up with him as well, to where he can't effectively run anymore. So you have to put him at DH. You can't even do backup catcher duty, even backup first base duty. Has to be strictly DH. And not to mention, he hasn't been exactly vintage Victor with his hitting either. So, in a sense, this is a blessing, another blessing in disguise, because this should be a message to the Tigers saying, hey, with the amount of money, I guess, right, the contract and all, the money you're paying him, but Victor's done. There's no other way around it. He's going to be, 38, 39 years old soon, and he's still having these types of problems going on with his body. In my opinion, this will be a good warning sign that, hey, you should probably have a real long, heart-to-heart conversation with this man. Say, hey, Victor, we appreciate every single thing that you've done for us, the team, the city, and even, getting your family involved, not with your son being involved with the team, or being around the team, I should say. But at the end of the day, your health and your livelihood is what's most important to you and your family. So I think Victor should really take that into consideration, because we have a similar situation, in my opinion, going on right now in the NBA with Chris Bosh, where he may have to retire on his own accord due to his own health issues. Now, granted, it's not a regular heartbeat, but still, blood clots are pretty damn serious. So if something like that can take down Chris Bosh and end his career, why can't we say the same when it comes to Victor Martinez? I mean, listen, we've already had one Detroit sports team gone through the trauma of having one of their players literally die on the fucking playing field. We don't want to go through that a second time in this day and age.
Remember Uri Fisher when he had his seizure back in November of 2005?
Exactly. So thank God they were able to get him the help right then and there, because that was a scary, close call as well.
Well, of course. Uri Fisher, one of the defensemen that used to play for the Red Wings. So that leads us to the trade rumors segment. A mystery team beside the other than the Astros, a mystery team has emerged as a, quote, possible suitor, unquote, for starting pitcher Justin Verlander, speaking of whom. Also, the San Francisco Giants have shown interest in left fielder Justin Upton prior to the waiver trade deadline, which is tomorrow. That's Thursday, when I get back on the WMLM 1520 AM airwaves, by the way, as Breckenridge visits Ashley. But back to the Tigers. This market is still hyped up pretty high prior to this waiver trade deadline. First Justin Verlander, now Justin Upton.
Well, the way Upton has been hitting this season, now especially since they've already dealt J.D. Martinez, and how Miguel Cabrera has been performing in general this year. By the way, for Cabrera, I think it was kind of funny that that 1-2, that jab, right-handed head that he threw, was probably a microcosm of how the whole season has gone. He landed the jab, but he never landed the big right hand. So, by the way, I think it's probably neck and neck in terms of how Conor McGregor did against Floyd Mayweather. But anyway, back to the trade deadline talk. With Upton, it makes sense because, he's been their best hitter now de facto since, like I said, JD is gone and Miggy has not been Miggy. Now, for Verlander, we've heard, the Astros time and time again. I haven't heard anything about the Dodgers, have you?
No.
Or even the Mets?
No, the Dodgers... the Dodgers had already backed away prior to the non-waiver trade deadline, after they were showing interest in JV at one point. That's as far as I remember.
Are you sure maybe they're having a reconsideration? That always has a possibility. Reconsideration. We'll get to that briefly when it comes to the Cavs and Celtics.
That's what. But, well, hold on, easy there, buddy. Well, I have not. That's the one thing I have not heard. The Dodgers showing reconsideration or any interest since. That's all I've heard. That's it.
Right.
So let's try not to go that far.
I understand, but when you think of mystery teams, almost any type of scenario could come to mind here.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it could be the Dodgers, it could be the Colorado Rockies, it could be the Chicago Cubs, it could be the Boston Red Sox or the New York Yankees. It could be hell. What's that?
I wouldn't count out the Nationals either.
Right, or the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. So that's Tigers. So as they continue to tank the way we want them to. Lastly, they suffered a 7-3 loss at the Colorado Rockies. Speaking of which, now let's transition to football.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
First things first, the Lions and Matthew Stafford, their top quarterback, have agreed to a record-setting contract extension of 5 years worth $135 million.
Holy jumping!
That includes $92 million guaranteed and a $50 million signing bonus.
Are you kidding me with this?
Done deal, pal.
Now, Ed, I'm going to go ahead and let you take shots at Rob Parker, who understandably had horrid takes on Matthew Stafford's contract extension on FS1's Undisputed with Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless. So, Ed, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a lot. Don't get me wrong. This is a polarizing contract and polarizing topic to talk about because it's understandable. Because on paper, why in the world are you giving a guy whose record against winning teams with a winning record is 5-46 the richest contract in league history? I get that. It's like it appears that you're trying to reward something, a middling or underachieving type of player. I get what the surface argument could be, but here's where Rob Parker, in his usual ridiculousness, lost the argument. He tried to call Matthew Stafford mediocre, trying to say Stafford hasn't won a big game, or Stafford, like I said, the teams that he always played against. Like I said, try to use the 5-46 record against winning teams as a crutch to handicap why Stafford doesn't deserve this type of money. You can argue all day about the semantics and the details of the amount of money he's getting, but what's lost in all this is that the Lions, they had to get this deal done, and Shannon Sharp himself brought up the point. The Lions already let Sue walk out the damn door. Calvin Johnson walked out the door on them. If they lost Stafford, they were fucked. So what else were they going to do here? So for Rob Parker, a guy who, I don't know how he still has a job in this business with the lame takes that he has, trying to besmirch and discredit the legacies of LeBron James and Tom Brady, respectively, now saying that Matthew Stafford, because he's 5-46, he doesn't, he's a mediocre quarterback. And also trying to say that if he would take Colin Kaepernick as a starting quarterback over Matthew Stafford. Now listen, I am all for Cap getting a job. I do believe he's being unfairly blackballed by the league. And you can make an argument that, hey, maybe he could be a starter on a bad team, but at the most he should be a backup on any team, period. But to say he's a better quarterback now than Matthew Stafford is fucking ridiculous. And just another example of why Rob Parker, as a journalist, or if you can call him that, is a hack and a jackass of the highest order. I cannot believe. Yes, I can, because it's Rob Parker. He says dumb shit like this because people, whether it be Fox or ESPN, they know he's going to get attention, so they put him on these platforms to say this stupid shit. But it's beyond infuriating and insulting to others with a journalistic mind or sports talk announcers at their own type of takes. This idiot going on TV saying he'll put Tom Copeland with the Matthew Stafford, or that LeBron James or Tom Brady. No, Tom Brady's the luckiest of all time, or that LeBron James is overrated. It's fucking ridiculous. Fuck it. Now, back to Stafford. I agree that the money was a bit much, but listen, that's how the league was done, okay? Derek Carr hasn't won shit either. Joe Flacco got lucky for one playoff stretch, okay? And he had a motivated Ray Lewis on his last leg to help him out too, by the way. So, and they all got their money. I didn't see most people bitching about that. And again, this is where the argument to me is, it's not because the Lions, you really think the Lions wanted to pay them this money? Fuck no, they didn't. But they had to because they could not afford to let another one of their stars walk out on them again. Because Stafford's going to be a free agent next year, and you really think he was going to stay here if he wasn't so sure about this team with his coach and whatnot? Or was he going to try to take his chances and find to play somewhere else? A team that has a better shot than what the Lions have right now. Well, what would be your option if you're in Stafford's shoes? I know what mine would be. So the Lions, they had to pay up. Now it's up to them with what other money they have left. You know, because in my opinion, the offense they have surrounding Stafford is solid. They need to make sure they need to hope Taylor Decker, their left tackle, when he gets back, he's healthy enough. That is the starting left tackle. You know, Stafford's blind spot protector. So they're taking a risk there with bringing in, the Greg Robinsons and all these other players to fill that slot until Decker returns. But the issue concerns the defense. Now, I understand, the money will handicap you trying to find good enough defensive players. You have to cross that bridge when you get there. But the main priority now was keeping Stafford. Because your team already suffered when Sue, and by extension, Nick Fairley leaving, and also took another hit when Calvin Johnson left. Not so much what we thought it would be, but I think Stafford, he overperformed, he overachieved in a sense, and in turn made his offense around him better. But the bottom line is this: you had to get something done to make sure he wouldn't leave you again. And if he leaves you, what's the chance? Is there really a guarantee that you're going to find another competent level starting quarterback in the league? No. Drew Brees is not going to all of a sudden fall out of the sky and say, hey, I want to go from leaving a team where I already won a Super Bowl with to go to a team that hasn't won a fucking playoff game in over 20 years and won in 60, period. Okay? That's not going to happen like that. So you have to make the deal. You have to make your bed and sleep in it. And so they did what they had to do and get Stafford done. The prime objective, and he lost. This deal done, and he got it done.
Yep, sure enough. It had to take a hefty price to get it done, but it got done nonetheless. Awesome.
It had to get done because you're not going to find another quarterback, competent level quarterback. What? You mean Jay Cutler is going to be the
Oh, no, definitely not Jay Cutler. He absolutely fucking sucks.
Right. Stafford is, I may be accused of being a Stafford mark or an ass kiss or whatever, but I don't care. Matthew Stafford is without question the best Lions QB I've personally seen in my lifetime because of sheer talent, potential, and what he's had to deal with the team that surrounds him. So it's because you do whatever you can to keep your most important player here.
Of course. Rob Parker's always been an idiot.
Ah, shut up, you idiot. What? Oh.
About a lot of things, but this is a new example. Matt Stafford, a mediocre quarterback? Are you fucking kidding me?
Are you kidding me with this?
Rob Parker's always had his head up his fat ass. I mean, that's the one. That's a no-brainer, man. The Lions had to get that deal done. There was no other way to do it. So, speaking of quarterbacks, Jake Rudock is drawing trade interest after his performance against the New England Patriots. The Patriots survived a comeback and won 30-28 on a game-winning field goal by Gostkowski with 2 seconds left at Ford Field. Jake Rudock finished 10 for 13 in completions for 113 passing yards, 1 touchdown. Didn't get sacked at all. Matt Stafford, in comparison, 15 of 22, 190 yards. That's still pretty damn good. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception pass. That makes 2 interception passes in the preseason, which is not much at all.
By the way, both of those coming off with deflections.
Right.
Or getting out.
That's true, yep. And he got sacked only once. Only for 4 yards. Which is not even minor. Definitely not major, but not even minor either. But they both did well. But Jake Rudock drawing trade interest after going 10 of 13 completions in passing for under 13 yards and a touchdown. So this could be a sign that Jake Rudock could be on the move.
In a sense, I'm all for it because I guess you could say, this probably will be seen as a joke, but I guess the touch of Harbaugh really blessed him at Michigan. So it's helping Jake out so far. I wouldn't mind it at all if he got a chance to start because I think any other middling team like Jacksonville right now, they can really use a fucking quarterback. I think Jake. I would take Jake's chances in that situation right now. So I could see that as a possibility. The question is, what do we get in return? Do we get a first or a second rounder, so to speak, that we could use for next year? Because that would be the angle I would be aiming for if I'm in that Lions front office. Because I know, especially now with these latest rash injuries that's fucking up our defense, we need to improve our defense by any means necessary. So that means trading Jake for a draft pick or so we can make an upgrade either on our D-line or our secondary. I would be all for it. Plus, it would give Jake a chance to have a better shot to maybe make a starting position as opposed to being the backup. Now, I understand backups are there just in case your guy gets hurt. But Stafford, in my opinion, his durability has shown up quite well ever since he's had his, I could say 2011. He hasn't had too much injury concerns since 2011 season. Now, there was the issue with the finger that he injured last year, but again, he didn't miss a game. The first couple of years, he had missed plenty of games due to shoulder injuries. Starting in 2011, he hasn't missed much at all. So, in terms of his toughness, it's unquestioned. The durability maybe slightly, but, Stafford, he's not going to come out of the game unless his fucking leg is hanging off. But I guess that's why they brought Brad Kaya up to the practice squad, because of injuries, one, and also the possibility that, hey, if we trade Jake, we're still going to need a backup quarterback. But they may have to sign another QB off the tree because I'm not sure if Brad Kaya, he's young now, rookie. I'm not sure if he will be ready to be the de facto number 2 second string quarterback. God forbid if Stafford gets hurt. So they'll probably have to bring in another person, This reminds me of the Sean Hill situation. Veteran, knows what he's doing, been in a while. He's not going to make the big pass, but he'll be serviceable while Stafford heals, that type of thing. So we'll see how it goes in that situation. If they trade Jake Rudock, they'll probably have to look for another backup quarterback as well. But, hey, if they trade Jake and get a draft pick or 2 out of it, I'm all for it.
That'll work too. And then the other Lions note, which is identically unfortunate to the Lions' defensive line. Defensive tackle Jordan Hill placed on the injured reserve with a bicep injury.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Once again, another injury, which hurt a defensive line that was already depleted, gets even more emptied out. Okay, Ziggy Ansah's still on the pup list. Terry Hyder's gone for a year. Haloti Ngata is essentially a shell himself. He should have retired last year. And now you're getting injuries to even your backups.
Such as Brandon Copeland.
Oh, God.
Damn it!
And seeing how, Brady in the past, they just lit up the defense like a fucking Christmas tree, it makes me very nervous for how this regular season is going to play out, considering how the schedule starts and how, some of our prime time games are going to be against caliber opponents. Stafford and the offense can only go so far, but it's up to defense if need be to get stops first and foremost to even give the offense a chance to catch up. Because I think after that first quarter or so, New England they just stopped caring. They did what they had to do. It was a time game. They came to town, defending champs. They put their balls on the table and they showed us who they are. So
yeah, they got off to a hot start too.
Right, and so after that was all the work they needed to do. And I think they just stopped caring. That's why the Lions made that comeback the way they did. Nothing to take away from Jake Rudock, but I think it was an example because New England stopped caring more than anything.
Well, they stopped playing Tom Brady. Tom Brady is Tom Brady, and the Lions defense. That's when the Lions defense came to life, and the Lions offense was given by their defense a chance to come back, which they did. They took the lead 28-27, came back from down 24-0, and still they lost the game 30-28. I want to.
If that's not a microcosm of everything Lions, I don't know what is.
Right. Lions versus the Patriots. What else is new? So, transitioning here to college football, just a couple notes.
Touchdown, MSU!
Speaking of injuries, punt returner Brandon Sowards of the Michigan State Spartans football team is out for the entire season with a torn ACL. And then
touchdown, Michigan!
Michigan Wolverines football head coach Jim Harbaugh is going to host his own weekly podcast starting September 5th. So Jim Harbaugh actually going to get into the sports media business on his own, huh?
Yeah, it's new age.
Wow.
Okay, with the time. Jimbo knows that.
And don't forget, he signed to an 8-year contract as head coach of the Wolverines. So, now it's time for our new segment, the College Football in the Mitten Quick Picks, or soon to be shortened, the Football in the Mitten Quick Picks. I'll have to get a new, I'll have to create a new intro bumper for that. So, I'm going to have to go in chronological order. Rhode Island at the Central Michigan Chippewas, Thursday at 7. I have to pick Central Michigan to rout Rhode Island. It's at home, and Rhode Island is a very bad team. Central Michigan may be mediocre, but they just have too much in their advantage. I'm going to go Central Michigan 42-10.
I'll agree with you. That's about as gimme of a game you can get. I'll say Central 28, Rhode Island 7.
Fair enough. Then we got the Charlotte 49ers at the Eastern Michigan Eagles Friday at 6:30. Eastern Michigan, same thing against the 49ers of Charlotte. About 80% predicted ESPN on ESPN.com. About 80% predicted Eastern to win. They've got home field advantage. Charlotte, I'm not sure how good or bad they were last year, but I have to pick Eastern to win. How about 35-13?
I'll go 31-17.
Okay. Then we go, as we go on, continue in chronological order, the Bowling Green Falcons at the Michigan State Spartans Saturday at noon on ESPNU. The Spartans are playing at home against a MAC team, and the Spartans are looking to improve vastly from their 3-9 season. That was just a fluke season. I think the Spartans are better than that. I think they're going to have a better season. I would pick at least 8-4, maybe 9-3. But especially when they play Bowling Green, they're going to win. I would say MSU 31, Bowling Green 14.
This is a team they should roll over, so I'm going to say Sparty 49, Bowling Green nothing.
Oh, yeah. And then Ed, your Michigan Wolverines at the Florida Gators Saturday at 3:30 on ABC. Michigan is ranked 11th. Florida is ranked 17th. So I'm going to let you go ahead and analyze that.
Well, this is a big start, a big test for both teams in this regard, in terms of proving where they belong, not just within their own conference, but also in the national spectrum of things. As you remember, the last time these two teams have met, it was at the Outback Bowl at the end of Harbaugh's first year, and Michigan carved them up like a Thanksgiving turkey, 41-7. Now, the Gators are going to be looking for some revenge, and they're going to be looking to do it at Cowboy Stadium. It's worth noting that Florida has suspended seven players from their team. The most noteworthy of those includes redshirt freshman Jordan Smith, sophomore offensive lineman Richard Desire Jones, junior defensive end Kevianis Davis, and most importantly, their leading wideouts, the junior receiver Antonio Callaway. All of those guys have been suspended at least for the Michigan game. So I think they've got played in Gilligan's favor. Now, the question mark is, how is Michigan as a team going to look, primarily on the defensive side of things, because you got to replace all of those starters that left for the NFL, and with the exception of the case of Jeremy Clark, who couldn't get his 6-year medical red shirt. So it is as much of a wild card game as you can possibly get for this weekend. I know everybody's going to be paying attention to Alabama versus Florida State, but to me, the most intriguing game is this one right here, because it's going to be a trajectory of how both teams are going to perform this year as a totality. So last I checked, Michigan was the favorite at 4 points. Might have gone up, might have gone down. But if it's still 4 points, I'm going to say Michigan will win and cover. But it's not going to be a blowout. I think Florida's going to keep it close because, again, it's the first game of the year, and the new players on defense trying to test things out, see how the team looks. Not to mention, we don't even know who Harbaugh wants as a starting quarterback. Is it going to be Wilton Speight? Is it going to be John O'Corn? So all those factors lead me to still pick Michigan because their defensive line is still going to be a monster. I think their offense in general is going to make some minor improvements, at least with their running game. I trust their receiving core, their offensive line. Their running game, while not as powerful, will be much faster with Chris Evans and Eddie McDoom as such. And the only question mark is who's going to be their quarterback and how is that secondary and the defense going to look. Even so, I still pick Michigan to win. I think the score will either be a 24-20 or something like 24-20 or 27-20. Either way, I think it's going to be a one-score game, but Michigan will still cover.
I'm going to pick Michigan 23 and Florida 21. I think it'll be closer than that. It's going to be really tough. Michigan's still got the defense. As far as offense is concerned, between quarterbacks, Wilton Speight and John O'Corn. I still think Wilton Speight will be the starting quarterback.
I'll be really surprised if John O'Corn, either Harbaugh, he's made leaps and bounds, Harbaugh has significant trust in him, or Speight regressed in the offseason. It's only one of those three options. Because the type of season that Speight had up until he got hurt against Iowa, it was, you would have thought, assured him that he would be the starter for this season. But I think it's the method of Harbaugh's madness is where he wants to make sure his players, doesn't matter what type of season you had last year, what can you do for me now to help us out this year? So I get his one. So we'll have to see who he chooses. By the way, I think my last update that I read on it was Harbaugh will not name his starting quarterback until Florida releases their depth chart. So we may have to wait up until kickoff on Saturday to see who's going to be the guy under center when the Wolverines take that first snap.
All right. And then we got Western Michigan, the Broncos, at the number 4 USC Trojans Saturday at 5:15 on the Pac-12 network. I pick USC to really roll 70-3. Now, keep in mind, Western Michigan has lost a lot of key players, and they have a new head coach. Western Michigan's definitely not going to be as good as they were last year when they finished undefeated in the regular season. They're definitely not even going to finish close to that in the regular season. Plus, they're playing on the road at a very hostile environment against a number 4 team on the road, for God's sake. This will be an easy win for the Trojans.
I agree that USC will win, and it'll be quite comfortable. 70-3 is a big stretch. I'll say, let's go 49-21 or 49-14. Because, like you said, like all the factors that you mentioned, losing the new players, and even PJ Fleck, who, like I said, was, in my opinion, a big part of the key to them going 12-0 more than as any other player. No disrespect to the players, but when you have a coach that has you motivated and riled up to play like that week in and week out, it's going to pay dividends. And so losing that to Minnesota was a big blow to them. So I hope they keep it competitive. That's probably the same thing I said to Michigan when they played Alabama in 2012. We know how that turned out. So I expect something similar here, to hence my picking with the score 49-14 for USC.
All right. I think that's probably more fair. I think I was being a little irrational with my prediction, but it's going to be around nonetheless. So that's our Football in the Mitten quick picks. That's our first ever segment of that. So we transition from football to hockey. Red Wings captain left winger Henrik Zetterberg has hinted at a possible retirement date. He's going to retire in 2 years. That's what I've been hearing in the articles online. Zetterberg, the Hockey Writers headline, Zetterberg's retirement will cost the Red Wings. Now he's being signed with a team through the 2020-2021 season. And his salary is going to drop to just $3.35 million in 2018-2019, and then $1 million for each of the remaining 2 seasons. That comes despite a $6.1 million cap hit due to his normal salary that has ranged between $7 to $7.5 million per season. That drop means Zetterberg won't be giving up much money if he retires early, according to pro hockey rumors.
Mm-hmm. It is. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the financial cost. Luckily for the Red Wings, Zetterberg signed his last contract before he was 35, unlike Pavel Datsyuk, who also retired early to return to his native country. Detroit's general manager Ken Holland was forced to wheel and deal Datsyuk's contract at the 2016 NHL draft, along with Jacob Chychrun for Dennis Cholowski, mind you, to the Coyotes of Arizona, to avoid having Datsyuk's $7.5 million contract on Detroit's books. As a result, the Wings sacrificed the opportunity to acquire one of the draft's top-rated defensemen, Jacob Chychrun. I don't actually call that a sacrifice. That's just nothing but stupidity and self-destruction combined, with no reason at all except Datsyuk had dead money. I'd rather settle for the dead money and keep Jacob Chychrun rather than trade him away for a crappy draft pick in Dennis Cholowski. But back to Zetterberg. The leadership cost. The most obvious blow to the Red Wings and their fans would be losing their leader. Zetterberg has perfectly exemplified what it means to be the captain of the Red Wings, following in the footsteps of his predecessors Steve Yzerman and Nicholas Lidstrom. Zetterberg's leadership Zetterberg's leadership abilities were never more clearly demonstrated during the 2016-17 season. With Datsuk returning to Russia and the Red Wings unable to make the playoffs for the first time in 26 years, Zetterberg never took a night off and boldly faced all the reporters' questions after every single game. During many post-game interviews, Zetterberg would put the blame on himself, even when he was not required to. At times after disappointing games, it was plain to see the frustration on his face as he answered the media's questions, but he always remained poised and professional. Many people believe that Justin Advocator is being groomed to be the next choice or the next captain in Hockey Town, and he certainly seems to be the most logical choice. That would people are
fucking dropping quality. My God,
Red Wing fans are slapdicks. They're lemmings.
Are you kidding me with this?
You mean to tell me we're gonna go from 3 certifiable Hall of Famers to just an applicator? Oh my God.
Yeah, Justin Applicator is not even close to that caliber. Not at all. Justin Applicator is not produced in any of his seasons. I'm sorry.
I mean, shit, I'll take Cornwall over Applicator. That's saying something.
Probably so. I would pick Tomas Tatar to be the captain because he's produced more, way more than Nicholas Cronwall, and especially way more over Justin Applicator. Tomas Tatar was actually signed to a 5-year deal. I think I remember that, but he was signed to a long-term deal by Ken Holland. No joke about it. Ken Holland was about to give Tomas Tatar a qualifying offer, a 1-year qualifying offer, and then let Tomas Tatar walk. But then Holland never. But then again, Holland never gave up on Tomas Tatar.
Well, the old saying goes: every once in a while, a blind squirrel finds a nut. This was his nut.
I guess so. One more note worth mentioning in Pro Hockey Rumors.com article on Zetterberg. He would cause nearly a $5.1 million recapture penalty in each of the last 2 seasons, making his retirement sting even more for the Red Wings. Pro Hockey Rumors recently went deep on the Red Wings cap situation, which doesn't look pretty even with the team struggling at the bottom of the standings. Cap recapture penalties would just be icing on the proverbial cap problems cake. Now, salary cap deep dive, Detroit Red Wings. Let me take a look at Henrik Zetterberg. Zetterberg is at 3 or more years. Zetterberg's $6.08 million average annual value, 4 years remaining. This was published this year, July 31st, just a month ago.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to post this later on after this episode. So there's all your information about Henrik Zetterberg. Now, one last topic involving the Pistons a little bit.
Left sideline 3 and he answers.
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah. The Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, we know the Pistons missed out on Kyrie Irving firsthand, as the Cavaliers traded Kyrie Irving to the Celtics. Now, the Cavaliers, we recently heard, wanted to evaluate the Kyrie Irving trade because one of the former Celtics players was injured, and it could have given the Pistons, in totality, another chance to get him in a trade for Andre Drummond. But the Cavs only asked for another draft pick from the Celtics to finalize the trade. So, just a public service out there for Piston fans out there who still want Andre Drummond to be traded for Kyrie Irving. the Pistons surely aren't trading Drummond to the Cavaliers or getting Irving. Either side, not happening. Sorry, guys. I hate it as much as I hate it more than they do, but it's not happening. And you feel the same way.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I would cry tears of joy if a deal like this were it's come about. But it's clear that what Cleveland's trying to do, they're just trying to get whatever they can get out of Boston, because this is a big piece that they're giving away. Isaiah Thomas, as good as he is, there is questions about what is his hip going to be like coming up off of last year where he injured in the playoffs. There's also the fact that Isaiah Thomas, with his size, will be seen as a defensive liability, despite his scoring and the fact that he could ignite at any given moment, especially in the fourth quarter. And also the unknown of, hey, LeBron still might leave next year, so let us get whatever we can get to shore ourselves up so that we're not completely fucked like we were when he left the first time. So you weren't going to get that, per se, by trading for an Andre Drummond or something to that effect. Because one, you're going to need a player that's not a mental midget, and two, you're going to need a player that has to be on the floor in the last 4 minutes of the game, not some guy that's still on his bench because he can't hit a fucking free throw this side of the equator.
Absolutely true. So, there you go. That's all the teams we covered. The teams that we've covered for this week's episode. And now the last two segments, starting with 5 questions. Are you ready, Ed?
Absolutely. Go ahead and let them rip, my friend.
It's time for 5 questions on the Michigan Sports Truth.
Question number 1, was the 7-game suspension for Miguel Cabrera fair enough? I say a definite yes.
Yes.
Ed, you're cutting off.
Can you hear me good?
Yep.
Yeah, I would say yes, because and you can make an argument that it should have been more because of Cabrera's actions, A, the shove, and then B, trying to turn into a boxer with a 1-2 that incited the whole riot brawl to begin with.
Or going Conor McGregor, other people would say.
Yeah, I thought but that's another topic for another day. But what the whole thing it started primarily of Miguel Cabrera's actions. The shove and then the punching led to all the hoopla. I mean, what's law? By the way, another we didn't get to talk about, Nick Castellanos get absolutely blindsided by Gary Smith. So that piece of shit, he earned his suspension, and Cabrera did the same here. So he earned there, and he's lucky it's not more than that.
Yeah. He got suspended either way. So, don't forget Aaron Judge punched Miguel Cabrera in the mouth, as I mentioned before, but I forgot to mention Judge did not get suspended, and Miguel Cabrera was questioning MLB for that. But we got to move on, I guess.
Next question.
Question number 2, what should the ramifications be for Justin Verlander flipping off for Victor Martinez?
It's called, this team is in turmoil, absolute turmoil. You're now seeing it being bubbled to the surface where everybody can see. It might have been held privately, but now with the fact that they're still losing and now they're literally fighting each other on the field, it's just an ugly mess all around. It's been a miserable season, and everybody wishes was over already. But guess what? You still got one more miserable month to go.
Yep. Can't wait till it all breaks down.
Next question.
Question number 3, is it time for Victor Martinez to opt out of his contract and retire?
Absolutely. You know, we've already gone over before earlier in the episode, but long story short, you know, for the sake of his long-term health and safety for his family, and to avoid a situation where Victor might literally die on the damn field if it's not treated properly, yes, it'll be a long, difficult conversation. But this is a warning. This is a warning sign to Victor. Say, hey, slow it down and think about what's next for you for your future. Chris Bosh is going through the same situation right now, so I can sympathize with what Chris Bosh is going through and what Victor's going through. But at the end of the day, you got to do what's best for your family. And if his family, I don't know for sure because I'm not in the room, but if his family would want to consider him, hey, maybe you need to think about this, then I think Victor should probably do what could be reported, and just opt out or whatever, retire and enjoy your health. That's all there is to it.
Yep. No doubt about it. Don't forget Miguel Cabrera. Back then, Miguel Cabrera, his illegal action, his actions, his DUI, him beating his wife in the past. And now the brawl with Austin Romine. This makes Miguel Cabrera such a selfish person. Not just a selfish player, but a selfish person. I know he's a great player, but I wouldn't call him a selfish player. He wouldn't break the rules, but a selfish person outside of sports. Miguel Cabrera, more importantly than being a great player, winning the Triple Crown and 2 MVPs and all that, he's I don't want to go too far. I'm not trying to go too far, but Miguel Cabrera, he's becoming a scumbag again. Got to clean that up.
Next question.
Question number 4. Should Brad Ausmus be on the hot seat for saying fuck you to Brett Gardner?
He should be on the hot seat for how this whole damn season has gone, period. Not just what he said in that moment to Brett Gardner. So to answer your question, yes. But it's not just for that moment. It's how this whole fucking season has gone.
I would name that the cherry on top of the shit Sunday.
Yeah.
Brad Ausmus is losing it.
And he knows it, too. He knows it. That's the sad thing. Ausmus knows what's going on around him. So if he makes it to the end of the season, it would be wise if he doesn't come back, or he would convince the Tigers to not bring him back.
Right. I have found no reason whatsoever for Brad Ausmus to say fuck you to Brett Gardner. He wasn't trying to protect his players. He actually saw that look on Brett Gardner's face, and Ausmus was scared for his own personal being, I guess. He tried to protect himself by saying fuck you to Brett Gardner. I mean, what's the deal? Brad Ausmus is a fucking coward. He was being a fucking coward, a pussy. You know what I mean?
Next question.
Uh-huh.
Question number 5. If Jake Rudock gets traded, which team has the best chance of claiming him? Have any wild guesses?
I would say Jacksonville off the service because they're a fucking mess right now. It'll be weird if Houston, but maybe Houston because Deshaun Watson, even though he has promise, he is still a rookie, and Jake Rudock has at least a year or so more experience under his belt, so they might try that route. Those are 2 teams that maybe San Francisco as well. And those are the 3 teams I come up with at the moment, right at the top of my head. Everything else is either, the teams are satisfied or they're confident or they're content with the QBs they have right now. So those are the 3 teams that come to mind for me, right off the top of my head.
So the Jaguars and the Texans may have to battle it out for Rudock. So that wraps up our 5-question segment and to our entire audience. If you want to answer those 5 questions, just replay that segment portion of this episode and answer them the best you can without going out of line. Now, for that last segment, what's your grade?
Pencils down, everyone. It's time to find out what's your grade.
Got two events. Each suspension from the brawls between the Tigers and the Yankees. So there are 5 suspensions, starting with Miguel Cabrera. So go ahead.
All right. Mickey, no-brainer. It's an A. He was essentially the catalyst for the bench clearing to begin with. 7 games is more than fair, so I'll give it an A.
How about Gary Sanchez? You were saying he could have been suspended more games. He got suspended nonetheless.
Yeah, I'll give him he was suspended nonetheless, but again, the way he sucker punched Nick Castellanos was so uncalled for. I'll give it a B+, because that deserved more games, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. How about Alex Wilson?
How many games was Wilson again?
4.
Fair. I would still say fair. So I'll go A-. Probably a little bit steep. 4 games is a bit of a stretch. I probably would have gone with 3, but A- is fair.
How about Yankees catcher Austin Romine getting 2 games? He was only trying to defend himself.
I know, just defend himself. But still, that seems steep compared to Cabrera, since those were the 2 seconds in this whole thing.
He gave Cabrera quite a takedown.
Yeah, so 2 games is a little lick. So I'll go with B, an even B.
Okay, and finally, Brad Ausmus suspended 1 game.
That's a C+, because he should have deserved more, because as the manager of the team, it's up to you, especially when Joe Girardi has already been thrown out, it's up to you as the manager of the other team to control your players and let them know what the fuck's going on. So Ausmus, in my opinion, deserved more games for not controlling his players rather than saying fuck you to Brett Gardner. So I'll give that a C. C- actually. So that's a C- in my opinion.
I would guess 5 games total for Brad.
At least 4. Because that shit should not happen under your watch when the other team's been, when the other manager's been thrown out.
Right. So that's our What's Your Grade segment. So for our audience, if they have grades for each event, post them in the comment bank below this episode. Please don't go out of line. So that's episode 279 of the Michigan Sports Truth Week in Review on Spreaker for August 30th, 2017. Before I sign off, we want to remind everyone to share this episode and our entire podcast on social media and have their friends share that as well, because I want to tell them that the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast organization is boosting its posts on Facebook, on its Facebook page, and searching for local advertising sponsors. If anyone has a business that's interested in sponsoring this program, send our Facebook page a message. Ed, it's been a long time coming. Hopefully, pending your schedule, we keep this going.
Absolutely. Now I can look forward to something more meaningful, a winning football team, or just a winning team, period. The shit I feel of this year watching my teams, it is nice to see something remotely successful. And of course, I'm referring to my Wolverines, because fuck the Lions. So let's see let's hopefully we'll get off to a good start against Florida, and let's off to the races for another season under Harbaugh.
We'll see what happens. But
absolutely. Take care of yourself, Taylor.
Thanks. So I'm Taylor Phillips. Follow me on Twitter at DT2Phillips and Ed Smith at EdSmith313. Like and share the Michigan Sports Truth Facebook page and join its Facebook group. We'll talk to you next week on episode 280. Thanks very much for listening and downloading and sharing. TTFN, ta-ta for now. Bon appetit.
Bon appetit.